Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you. Whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 124th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am very excited to share with you this week's episode, which is going to be called Christmas in Cullman. Now, what I'm talking about is this amazing Christmas market in Cullman, Alabama. Now, if you've listened to our podcast for a while, you might have heard me reference this before, especially when I was talking about Christmas day trips last year, because it was our first time to go. But I wanted to take a full episode for this year because they have expanded so much on the Christmas market. And I wanted to make sure that I featured it in plenty of time for you to still be able to go. So we're going to do it a little differently this year on our trip. So I wanted to compare the two, a day trip versus an overnight trip for you. So first off, what is a Christmas market? Well, this is themed like a 16th century German Christkindlmarkt. So when I say themed, that's where it's originated. So of course then, like this is going to be with a modern twist. And what I find really interesting about this is that it is the largest and closest Christmas market of its kind anywhere near us in Northeast Mississippi. You can actually make it in a day trip. But even though it's close to us, and it's in an area that you wouldn't necessarily think, because normally Christmas markets, for one, they're all over Europe. That's where they're famous, Germany and throughout Europe. But they're also in major cities here in the U.S. Chicago, I believe, has the largest Christmas market in the U.S. But what Cullman has is you're combining German heritage and the holiday spirit with the Southern charm in Alabama. So I love this combination. And it is very authentic. When we went last year, like we saw so many vendors. They had 40 vendors last year. And this year they're growing. Every year I believe they're adding on. But I think last year they launched a lot of new things and they really have taken off now. Like it's next level, like Hallmark Christmas special worthy level at this point. This year they're going to have 60 plus vendors. So that's how much they're growing, and they've added a lot. So when we first went last year, I was so impressed because they're not just in tents where they have the vendors set up. They're in actual like wooden stalls. So it looks authentic. If you've ever seen pictures or from the movies of a Christmas market, that's what it looks like now. So like I said, very authentic. And even though 75% of the vendors last year were local, so it brings in so many visitors from out of town. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But when I say authentic, because I did say that it's authentic, there's so many foods that if you like German foods, this is a great place to go because we had cheese sandwiches. And when I say a cheese sandwich, this wasn't your average grilled cheese sandwich. It was literally the best cheese sandwich I've ever had in my life. And as a vegetarian, I've eaten a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before. The cheese was so thick and breaded that from a distance, I thought it was a chicken sandwich. That's how thick the cheese was. But it had like this special sauce and these pickles, and it was incredible. And we also got these chimney cakes, which are a very famous German dessert. And you could have them filled with ice cream, apples, Nutella, like so many different fillings. So it was wonderful. So you have the German heritage and food, beautiful arts and crafts. A lot of them are local. But when I say, again, authentic, like the people who were making our food, they did not seem local. Like you seemed like you had just stepped into, like I said, a Hallmark movie set in Germany is what it felt like. So when does this take place? What are some things that you can do? What are some things you need to know about? November 21st is when it kicked off, and it goes through December 23rd. Now, we're cutting it close this year because we're not going until the final weekend. But I didn't want to wait until after it was over to tell you about it in case you want to go now. It is every Thursday through Sunday. But check out their Facebook page. They have a lot of information about it. If you just type in Cullman Chris Kendall Marked, it'll come up. So type that in, or Christmas Market in Cullman, Alabama. It will come up. If you go to our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate, Whimsical Destinations, you can see a lot of more information about it. I link the Facebook page there for you, and I have our pictures even from last year. You'll be able to see those. So what are some things that you can expect? What are some things you can do? Well, they have ice skating. And they had an ice skating rink last year, but this year it's going to be covered, and it looks way bigger than we even saw last year. They have a small carousel, a little train, which our boys experienced that. We went last year with our boys and our niece, and we went just for a day trip. And it ended up being really cold the day we went, so check the weather. It felt very like we are in a, Christmas village experience because it was so cold. But we did not prepare for it to be as cool because we were just basing it like, oh, it's a day trip. It was actually, not so cold here that day. And we got there and it was freezing. So there was just so much to do last year that we decided that we're going to make an overnight trip of it this year. And we rented a little Airbnb. I will show you lots of pictures of it and something that you can put on your list for next year. But I wanted to share this with you today because I've already had guests on our Facebook group go this year and just absolutely loved it. And they said that they found out about it from our Facebook group and wanted to go check it out. And I have several other guests and members of our Facebook group that already have plans to go this December. So this still gives you time. So through the 23rd, that's what it's going for. It's a great place where you can get Christmas gifts. Last year, I got this beautiful alpaca scarf made with alpaca wool in a beautiful teal color, and it was so soft, and I just had to get it. So you've got food, you've got activities for the whole family like ice skating, carousel, a little train, live entertainment, both like European and German inspired and local. They have, for the first time ever, they have a Ferris wheel. 108-foot tall Ferris wheel. So I'm going to do that this year. I'm very excited about it. They also have a whole area just for the kids. They call it Kinderplatz. So you're going to see a lot of German names. Kids activities like ornament making, cookie decorating, pictures with Santa. They have other characters walking around, like the Grinch makes a special appearance, Elf on the Shelf. The entryway, when you walk there, what greets you is a wooden pyramid. And that's what they call it. And I did not know what this represented, but it's absolutely beautiful. Imagine part pyramid, part weather vane. And it's the tallest German Christmas pyramid in the U.S., so it really makes an impression, and it looks great in pictures. So last year alone, this festival, or Christmas event, attracted over 200,000 visitors from 36 different states. I cannot wait to see the numbers from this year because I know it's going to be even more. They also had these little igloos last year set up where you could get warm, and they had them where you could rent them. And this year they have one that is so large you could rent out for private parties for up to 2 hours, and it will hold 40 guests. And it's all decorated and has, furnished. And so it would be a beautiful place where you feel like you're still in the heart of everything. It's clear, but yet you can warm up. So my tips are dress warmly, in layers. You can definitely do it as a day trip. Check your maps, your GPS to see how long it would be. For us, I think it was about 2.5 hours. And so we did it, round trip. We still made a really long day trip of it, but it was great. Some of the food to expect: spiral cut apples, roasted German nuts, which we tried. Waffles we didn't have because we were so full from our chimney cakes that we had, filled with apple pie filling and ice cream. They have soft pretzels. I said German-themed foods, beer and wine, like mulled wine. Then they're going to have hot chocolate for the kids. So it's very family-friendly. And there are things that you can sign up for, like once you get there, that you don't have to wait in line. Like they have an app where you can download so you're waiting in line virtually, or you can stand in line as well. So I think we're definitely going to do the ice skating this year. We're just going to plan to get there early in the day and start off there because Christian was very disappointed. I kind of saved it for the end. And by that point, knew that we still had a long drive ahead of us and we didn't want to wait longer. So if you're wanting to avoid the crowds, remember I said it's every Thursday to Sunday. I think Thursday would be your best day if you're trying to avoid the crowds for the weekends. We're probably going one of the busiest weekends being the last weekend there, but we're going on a Sunday and then we're spending the night so we can spend all day there. So if you've never been to a Christmas market, then Cullman, Alabama is a great place to start. One day I'm going to go to the ones in Europe, but I can tell you it's like Europe comes to you here in Cullman, Alabama. That's all the time we have for this week. I hope whatever you're planning to do this Christmas season, have some fun with your family, whether it's a day trip, an overnight trip, or a longer trip. Stay safe. Remember, life is short. Make those memories. Take the trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.